Where we get into faith is the recognition and understanding that we are riding the tide of a better version of ourselves, a better version of this life, and we can just trust that it's all going to work out. And so what this looks like for achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve, it's about letting go of any expectation of the desired outcome and just surrendering to the fact that if we just show up every single day and we do our best, then that desired outcome is going to eventually show up for us. And where we get disappointed and get off track is when we start to set out these expectations of, where we think we need to go, and then those expectations don't show up as quickly as we want them to. We start to question everything that we're doing, and then we get pulled off track, and then we never end up achieving it because we were trapped in this questioning. There is a universal principle of abundance. Just look throughout all of nature. It's like abundance is everywhere. We agree that abundance is a universal principle. And so when we are trying to live an abundant life, we are trying to say, well, what do I need to do to have abundance? And the answer is nothing. The answer is nothing. The only thing that is required for you to plug into the source of abundance that is already available to us all is to figure out why you're blocking it. And so for me, just like I described in that Hermosi example, is one of the major blocks to me unlocking abundance was a lack of self-belief.
Meet David Haas, intuitive healer and transformative guide. After overcoming his own profound challenges, David discovered the power of inner healing. Now, he dedicates his life to helping others break free from addiction, burnout, and emotional pain through personalized one-on-one mentorship, immersive retreat, and transformative programs. David empowers high achievers to reconnect with their true selves and embark on a journey toward lasting well-being.
Welcome back to the David F. Haas podcast. This is episode 2 of my 5-part series that I started while I was in Florida about how to live the good life. And in today's episode, we're talking about faith and abundance and why I think these are two things that are very critical to move into the good life. So I hope you really enjoy this. I'm going to continue breaking down this good life series over the course of the next few weeks, keep releasing that. So make sure you stay tuned to learn the 5 keys to the good life. So let's get into today's lesson, which is about today's insights. I don't even want to call it a lesson, about the good life. And this is about like faith and abundance. And so why did I kind of put these together? Because they both kind of require the same level of understanding or awareness in order to break them down. So let's just do them one at a time. So looking at faith. And so what do I mean by faith? And I mean, this isn't like a religious, meaning believing in God, although it is in some ways. The way I like to describe faith is recognizing that we are a part of an unfolding of the universe, which is an energy that we have to do nothing to be a part of. We're just a part of it naturally. And that energy is constantly moving us towards a better life, really, is all it really comes down to. I talked about this on the podcast. I was watching the show 1923, which was like essentially 100 years ago. And I'm watching it in my basement on my 82-inch TV and like sitting on this gigantic couch in a perfectly conditioned house, and perfectly climate controlled house and plumbing and everything. And I'm watching 1923 where they're just introducing the automobile. They don't even have plumbing in their houses. They don't even have electricity in their houses. And so it's like, look how far we've come in 100 years. We didn't literally have to do anything to be a part of that unfoldment. It was just a natural consequence of being a human. Like, we are constantly moving towards this better version of life. And now people may argue, well, it was a better life back then. Sure, whatever. But regardless, our life is better than it was in 1923. And so we are a part of that energy. So where we get into faith is the recognition and understanding that we are riding the tide of a better version of ourselves, a better version of this life. And we can just trust that it's all going to work out. And so what this looks like for achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve, it's about letting go of any expectation of the desired outcome and just surrendering to the fact that if we just show up every single day and we do our best, then that desired outcome is going to eventually show up for us. And where we get disappointed and get off track is when we start to set out these expectations of, where we think we need to go, and then those expectations don't show up as quickly as we want them to. We start to question everything that we're doing, and then we get pulled off track, and then we never end up achieving it because we were trapped in this questioning. And so faith is recognizing, hey, what is it that I want to do? And then just staying on the path. And this is like the awareness that I had with respect to Hermosi, and this relates into abundance as well. It's like when I go to this Hermosi event, I pay $5,000 to be in a room with 100 other entrepreneurs, and like, it wasn't so much about the lessons that I learned, it was about the realization that I never was missing anything in the first place. And so that awareness was like this huge wake wake-up call for me because I had been in this constant search for the thing that I was missing. And so just the switch in the belief that I'm not missing anything can just let me align with whatever it is that I want to achieve, and then just have faith that it's going to come into fruition. Okay. And so this is faith. We just trust that it's all going to work out. But it goes on the other way too, is that if things are going bad, and I went through this cycle multiple times throughout Lingo Vita, we're a startup and we're spending all kinds of money, more money than we even have to create this, to turn this place into what it is that we want to turn it into. And so as I'm doing that, there was multiple times where we're like running out of money. And I'm like, that creates a ton of stress. If you have employees and a family and your life savings invested in a business, you are going to get into like a stressed out state. And so faith comes into play there as well, to recognize that no matter how bad things are getting, you're going to be okay, right? And then the ultimate faith or surrender would be to recognize that even if you were to die, you would be okay. And so at the source of all fear is the fear of death. So if you're fearful of judgment, if you're fearful of not being accepted, it's because that's related to being outcast from the tribe. And if you're outcast from the tribe, you're going to die. If you don't have any money, it's because the fear of poverty is connected to the fear of death. So ultimately, the ultimate surrender is the surrender that we are eternal. There is no death. And so when we really get to that point, when trouble shows up, like it did for me over the course of creating Lingo Vita multiple times, I could do what I used to do before I discovered this work. I could get stressed out. I could be thinking about it. I'd be losing sleep. I maybe would try and escape the stress with drinking too much. I'd be venting to every single person I know about how terrible my life is. I would go into victim mode. I would do all of the things that I would do to protect me from the feeling of failure, or from the feeling of this may fail, from the feeling of I'm going to be poor. I would do all of these things to escape that feeling. But then when I recognize I'm okay in that feeling, I can just feel that feeling, then I could move immediately into trust, like an ultimate and total trust that this is going to work out. It takes some time to get there, because we actually are like receiving a payoff from like not trusting. Like when we don't trust, I said this multiple times, but it's like, for me, it's God. And so I'm just going to start saying God instead of trying to justify why I said God. For me, it's God. So it's like God, which is, to me, the definition of God is the energy that connects us all. It's that energy that's moving us towards the best version of ourselves. That energy of God, that all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present energy, is constantly at work. And when you get to know that energy, when you've seen it show up for you over and over and over again, I'm going to prove to you that exists in a second. When you get to know that energy, then you slowly begin to move into trust. But that trust will be questioned. You know, there will be things that you're like, I trust God, but then you really go and try and control, and you stress out, and you do all the old things that you did to try and solve. And so the reason that we don't trust in God is because the ego, which is just that little voice in your head, it's that sense of I, it wants for you to believe that you are it. And it does so through its own justifications of being right, essentially. So it wants to be the source of resolving your problems. So this is why when a problem arises, the ego, the mind, goes to work to try and figure it out. But the reality is it's all already been figured out, and there is nothing to figure out. We just have to unplug and connect to that infinite source of potential, infinite source of power, infinite source of wisdom, and receive whatever it is that is required to receive. And then we have to trust fully that it's all going to be fine. And even if we lose all of our money and our wife leaves us, whatever, we're still going to be fine, right? And so the way I'm going to prove to you that this energy exists and has been working for you is I want you to think right now back to like the worst thing that ever happened to you in your entire life. And I'm guessing that if you think about that worst thing that ever happened to you, there were probably a bunch of things that happened as a result of that terrible thing happening that made you a better version of yourself today. You know, just even looking at my own story, it's like, well, the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life was my mom dying when I was 9 years old. And I recognize now that if my mom didn't die when I was 9 years old, I wouldn't be who I am today at all. Like I was like attached to her. I was like a mama's boy, you know, and her dying forced me to essentially man up and forced me to take charge of my own life. Probably went through my whole entire life leaning on her and relying on her. And who knows? I mean, this is all speculation, but it's like there's a recognition her death was for a reason. And because of her death, even though as terrible as it was and untimely as it was, as early as she died at 39 years old, was like devastating in the moment. Like now I can look back on that and go like, I can see exactly why that sequence of events unfolded for me the way it did. And to get even deeper is like, you know, connecting to a bigger purpose, which I've been resistant to, which is to help people heal, right? You know, my mom died of cancer. And so I remember this moment in my life saying that, you know, when I get older, I'm going to get rich, find the cure for cancer. And now the recognition is that like I already have the cure for cancer. and I don't need to get rich in order to teach other people how to do that. And so that's like a big claim, essentially. But ultimately, what I believe is there's a healing journey for everybody. And, like where you are here is not healed. And then you want to go to here, which is healed. And there's all of these points along this path that you need to come into these awarenesses in order for you to fully heal. What I've been able to access for myself and for others, and what I've seen over and over again, is that when we learn to connect to this infinite source of intelligence, the energy of God, we don't have to remain linear anymore. We don't have to go from point to point to point to point to point to you're healed. We can actually make leaps. And in doing that, one realization, one awareness, one shift could create immediate miraculous healing. And this is like the stuff that miracles are made of. This is like what I've experienced over and over again in my life. I remember when I set out to stop drinking, and you think of the struggles that people go through to try and break an addiction. If you think about all of the heartache, if you think about the rock bottoms, if you think about the endless AA meetings, right? And when I, set the intention to get to the root or the source of my drinking, I went and saw a local healer here who I know is super connected. And I lay on her table and she's waving her hands over me and she says, "I think it's self-doubt." And when she said that to me, it made zero sense to me. Like I didn't even understand what it was. But then as I went on this journey, because she had put that into my awareness, when I finally was able to see it, right? And what it was the recognition that without alcohol, I wouldn't be accepted. I wouldn't be liked. I wouldn't be fun. I wouldn't be part of the in crowd, whatever it was. It was like I was doubting that I could be my true self without alcohol. And so she picked it up 3 years before I finally saw it. But because she picked it up 3 years before I finally saw it, her awareness led me to make these big leaps. I might have had to go through years of rock bottom, picking myself up, losing everything, fucking my relationships up, until I finally was able to see that. She like quantum leaped me forward by pointing that out to me. And so like this is the power that exists when it comes to healing. It's like if you can see things in these leaps, you can heal a lot quicker and sometimes instantaneously. This is the power that exists when we recognize that we can have a trust that it's all going to be okay and it's all going to work out. And then the next recognition comes that the source of all of our suffering has been from us trying to figure it out. And that's where the venting and the thinking about and the anxiety and the overwhelm and all of that comes from, is because we're trying to figure it out inside of our own head. We can't break the cycle. And so when we learn to take a step back and plug in, then we can make these quantum leaps. Okay. And so the second step is abundance. And so this is one that I would say that I've continued to struggle with. But the one thing that I do recognize is that there is a universal principle of abundance. Just look throughout all of nature. It's like abundance is everywhere. And I always give this stupid example, and I'm going to repeat it again because we learn through repetition. I have a maple tree in my front yard. It's not even a full-grown maple tree. It's like maybe it's like 5 years old, this maple tree. This freaking thing will produce, feels like 1 million of those helicopter leaves that I have to pick out of my garden. And so it's one tree produces thousands of seeds, abundance. Look at fish. They don't lay one egg, they lay hundreds of eggs. You look at humans. Like humans have the ability to have 15 kids if they wanted to, right? And so it's like a universal principle is abundance. And so now I think everyone will agree that exists. We agree that abundance is a universal principle. And so when we are trying to live an abundant life, we are trying to say, well, what do I need to do to have abundance? And the answer is nothing. The answer is nothing. The only thing that is required for you to plug into the source of abundance that is already available to us all is to figure out why you're blocking it. And so for me, just like I described in that Hermosi example, is one of the major blocks to me unlocking abundance was a lack of self-belief. I was in this constant search for what it was that I was missing. And at the core of that question or that belief system, the emotion was that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. And so I developed the belief that I must be missing a tool, a tactic, a mentor in order for me to finally tap into abundance. But the recognition I had at that Hermosi event, this is not even something that they told me, the recognition I had at this Hermosi event was that I'm not missing anything. I'm just like all of these guys. So what's different from me to Alex Hermosi? Well, Alex Hermosi always believed that he could do it. In one shape, sure, maybe he had doubts and questions, but he continued to stay on the path. He did not give up. And he's even talked openly that he has deep, deep insecurities. And this is the thing that kept him on the path, were these deep insecurities. But those deep insecurities kept him moving forward. So when I look at a guy like Alex Hermosi and that has 100 people in the room that all paid $5,000 and he's doing that every week. So he's making $500,000 a week and then he's tying them into a back end. I'm like, what is it that he has that I don't? He has more reps. He just did it more. And through doing, all of the things that he needed to sort out were just revealed to him. And so the only difference between him and I is that he kept on doing the same thing and I kept on doing different things because I was questioning whether or not that I had it. And so do you see how like that one brutalization, even though it's taken me 46 years to come to, is a quantum leap? And actually the funny thing about it is that since I've been back from that event, it's like I have just been plugging into that abundance that exists because I'm no longer questioning. I'm like, this is my path and I'm staying on it. I'm not changing it one bit, right? And so I just released a thing today, like it's like a synopsis of these 5 steps. And I said, hey, I put this all into a Google Doc. Who wants it? I got in the first 10 minutes, I got 12 comments saying, yeah, I want it. That's abundance, right? Now it's free, right? Of course. And so you're saying, well, you're not abundant, but like that's exactly what a non-abundant person would think. It's like, I'm thinking about doing 5 free events out at Lungo Vita. I'm going to call them like masterclass. And there's some of the people that were coming to mind to bring out to like co-host these things. I recognize that they're going to want money. And it's because they're trapped in scarcity. They can't understand that if you do this event for free, it will lead to abundance. But everyone is trying to check their own box of, I need to get paid. Right. And so because of that, we block our abundance because we are in the state of lack. Tapping into abundance is about figuring out why you're blocking it. I made a bunch of notes here, but of course, I'm not reading any of them. But I had some really good ones that I wanted to bring up. And so I guess the question to ask yourself is this, is like, if you were abundant, like what does abundance look like to you? Okay. And so if it was like, let's say this is like kind of been mine, it's like $10 million in the bank, right? You got $10 million in the bank. You're pretty much like not worried about anything. You could live off the interest. You don't have to do anything. And so how would you feel if you had that $10 million in the bank? And so the answer might be free. And so the question would be well, why aren't you free now? Oh, it's because I need to make $10 million. Oh, okay. Why do you need to make $10 million? Because I need to prove to the world that I could do it. I need to prove to myself that I could do it. So anytime we're trapped in proving, it's because we don't believe that we already have it from within. We don't have that trust or that faith in the universal principle of abundance. So we have to go out and get it. And so when we're looking to try and go get something out there like abundance, we are going to set ourselves up for continued disappointment. In order to break free of that, we have to solve for why we don't feel free from within right now, why we don't feel like we're good enough. Like for me, solving the belief that I was missing something is the thing that allowed me to plug into this universal abundance. Okay. And so the question that you need to be asking yourself is, what is it that is blocking you from tapping into this source? What is the thing that keeps preventing you from moving forward? Just think about anything that you ever wanted to do in your life. Like abundance is not just wealth. It could be in health. It could be in relationships. And so let's just use a relationship example. If you keep attracting the wrong partner, this would be more for like the women. If you keep attracting the wrong loser, right? And that loser is like keeps repeating over and over again. Stop saying that it's about the person out there. Ask yourself, why haven't you tapped into the abundance of love that exists for all of us? What is it that you are doing that is continuing to block that love from being unlocked, right? And so maybe it's like, maybe it's judgment. Maybe it's trying to change them. Maybe it's needing them to love you in a certain way. And so if you're trying to get love from somebody, that means you don't have it from within. There's a belief system that you are not worthy of love. You're not deserving of love that was probably taken on unconsciously in childhood. And that belief has become your block to a feeling unconditional abundant love that exists for all of us. And so if you can uncover that, then you'll just plug into abundance and there's nothing you need to do to be a part of it. You'll just have a sense of knowing that everything that you're going to do is going to lead to you feeling loved, to you feeling wealthy, to you feeling healthy, whatever it is that you're trying to uncover. So this is why I think these two are like two of the most important, is a complete and total surrender that everything's going to be fine, a complete and total surrender that every answer that you need will be provided to you as long as you stay on the path, and then an uncovering of what is blocking you from tapping into the abundance that already exists. We don't have to, abundance isn't something that we go out and get. It's already here for us, but we are the ones that are disconnected from it. If you think of like abundance as like the power lines that run around these houses, right? And it's like you're digging on the dirt looking for abundance, but the abundance has been above your head the whole entire time of energy we're saying. And so it's like why are we digging in the dirt is the question we want to ask, right? When the abundance is right there for us to lock into, and when you do, it's like you're supercharged. Okay. And so if you can begin to answer those questions, you'll begin to make this major shift. And this is when we go from a life force to flow. And actually that's going to be next week's talk talking point is about moving into a state of flow when we feel like we're in like the grind and the hustle. And if you answer this question like life is fill in the blank there, and if you said it's a bitch, it's a struggle, it's hard, then you're not in a state of flow. And so we want to uncover why, so that we can begin to move into a life of ease, a life of happiness, a life of joy, a life of being a part of that and full unfolding, and just recognizing that it can all be easy and that we were getting a payoff from remaining in the struggle and calling life hard. So that's what we're going to get into next week. I hope this thing brought you value. If you got any value whatsoever from it, just hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you again next week.